Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Schönen guten Nachmittag. Köszöntöm Önöket a nagykövetségen. Don't worry, I won't speak Hungarian, but it's always a temptation to switch to Hungarian because by that you can provoke the guests and maybe share with you some inspirations. But there are enough inspiration in this room. Professor Karikó, dear Katalin, warm welcome again. It's not the first time that you are honoring us here to share your views, your projects, your lessons, your plans with the next generation. Maybe for those who are not aware what a special place you are, because usually if you are in the building of an embassy, then you are on the territory of the respective state. But here it's twice true because 36 years ago, Hungary was the country which teared down the wall, and then the then Chancellor Kohl said that the ground under the Brandenburger Gate is partially Hungarian. And I know that you are basically participating also in the program of falling walls. And yesterday, here in Berlin, we committed the 36th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, but the first brick was broken out by the Hungarians. Because the Hungarians are so, they don't like walls. And it's very nice that Professor Karikó will today discuss with the next generation, while you should know that she belongs to the young generation, but still there are youngers, at least due to the biography. And for that reason, it's very important that you have also this vision, how with this new generation you can meet challenges, because there are different curriculums, different lifelines. Somebody had at the beginning big successes and later on the difficulties. You had the different order or different sequencing, but this is a proof that it is worth to do so. Some days ago we had the 200th celebration anniversary of the foundation of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, the Day of the Sciences in Hungary, and that's also a very good occasion to make this bridge between Berlin and Budapest. Sometimes Boston, Berlin, and Budapest. And in that sense, I wish you a very interesting afternoon. Afterwards, enjoy our hospitality. But first, you will for sure enjoy all the presentations which you will listen today. Thank you very much for coming. All the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. As you may know, Berlin Science Week is taking place all over the city right now. Lots of interesting programs focused on policies, technologies, new innovations, and very important topics. And today, as part of that initiative, we would like to focus on something even more important, the human side of science. Because as you know, science doesn't move forward on its own. It is moved forward by people. People who are motivated, people who work hard, and people who are not afraid of challenges. And, you know, those who choose a career in science, they do face many challenges, and they often face doubts. And we often need mentorship, and we often need inspiration to help us overcome those difficult moments. And we need real role models who show us that perseverance matters, that our ideas matter, and that the spark we have within us, it is worth preserving. And we are incredibly fortunate today to have such a role model here with us. As you may know, Professor Katalin Karikó is a world-renowned biochemist, recipient of hundreds of prizes, amongst them the Nobel Prize. She has written a book about it. She's invited onto stages all over the world, and she's celebrated all over the world. And it sounds so amazing and so glamorous, because it is. But most of her story was far from glamorous. It was based on decades of relentless work, without funding, without proper support, with many, many challenges. Yet, through all of that, she didn't lose hope. She kept on going. She kept on believing in her ideas, even when most of the people did not. Today, we will have an opportunity to hear a presentation by Professor Karikó, which will be followed by a panel discussion. And then at the end, we will have an opportunity to hear your questions as well. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Victoria, and I will be moderating today's discussion. A little bit about me. I'm a fifth-year medical student and a student researcher in Hungary, and I'm also a mom of 4 children. I am also the creator of an interview series that is dedicated to women's journeys and women's achievements in various fields of science. I come from very humble beginnings, and I didn't always have the opportunity to follow my dreams early in life. Yet 6 years ago, due to the incredible support of my wonderful family, I took a huge leap of faith, and I started my own medical and scientific journey. And on that path, I learned about the importance of mentorship and about the importance of visibility and the importance of role models. And I personally have been very moved. I have been very inspired by Professor Karikó's story. I have cried tears of joy on the day when we heard the news that she won the Nobel Prize. It was wonderful. And I hope that you will be just as inspired today as I have been until now. And before we move on, I would like to acknowledge the organizations that made today possible, our collaborators, who believe in supporting young researchers, including the University of Szeged, the Berlin Science Week, Berlin-Brandenburg Academy of Sciences and Humanities, the German National Academy of Sciences Leopoldina, Hungarian Young Academy, Young Academy of Europe, Young Network of Europe, European Academy Berlin, Hungarian Association of Doctoral Students, Max Planck Society, a number of universities in Berlin, and of course, our host for today, the Embassy of Hungary. Thank you all for believing in the next generation of science. And before we start with the presentation, I would like to play a short video that I created in Professor Karikó's honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. It was very nice. We met several years ago, and I'm amazed that you are raising 4 children. Oh, my God. And going to medical school, that's something very challenging, could be. So today I will talk about actually my journey, and I grew up Kisújszállás, a small agricultural town, and my parents had only elementary school education, and my father was butcher, my mother was bookkeeper, and I learned from them that hard work part of life and how to make sausage. And with my older sister and my mother, father, you know, we lived in one room in this adobe house. And there was no running water and no refrigerator, no television, no distraction there. And so it was, the question is that how somebody from this simple life is getting here in the podium, you know. And that's what I am talking about. So nobody paid attention that I exist. Up until exactly 5 years ago, November 10, 2020, the Boston Globe had an article and discussed, you know, now that November 9 was announced that, you know, the vaccine was effective, and November 10, this article came out and discussed the companies, Moderna, BioNTech, Pfizer, the scientists behind, and it was described, you know, that what was my life. And other outlet took this article, and they discussed, you know, this is my time life of my career, you know. Things are ups and downs and ups, but mostly down, 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 but I couldn't make it well on this graph. So I lost my job several times, and I tried to bounce back because I will tell you why I could do that and how you can do as well. So I grew up as a, you know, as a little girl who liked to check out things, you know, watching the chicken coming out from the eggs, and it was, you know, the wonder was there because I like fried eggs also, but, you know, if three weeks, you know, was the egg under the hen, that, you know, it was a chicken, and where it is coming from, and everything was so magic, and I tried to understand it. And first I participated in different competition and in geography, chemistry, but I was most successful in biology. And by when I was 14 years old, I was third best in Hungary, you know. And Kisújszállás is 150 kilometers from Budapest, and when I got the announcement that I can go to the capital, you know, it was 1 week in the middle of the summer, and my father put me on the train and said, go to the competition. And I was 14. So things were different then. But recently, when I was looking through my stuff, I found that, you know, I actually had some kind of vein to write books because I started the illustrated book and wanted to know everything about the animals and how they look and why they are important. Don't pay too much attention to the crab, too many legs I threw there, but, you know, scientifically was not really correct. I don't even know why I was drawing animals, because I actually like plants. And I wanted to know their names. And when I looked at, you know, what is around us, I realized that each name actually has a following with a Latin name. And there was a capital L there. And then I learned that actually stands for Linné, carbon Linné. And he come up with this idea that everything had to have a name that all over the world everybody would understand that what we are talking about, so that it is unequivocally defined something. So now that 50 years forward, you know, when I get the Nobel Prize, I went to Uppsala University and they showed me that what Linné was drawing, actually, you know, he had similar drawings like I did. At that point, he was 27 years old, I was just 13. But he had this pencil drawing of different plants when he was working how to name them. So that was my, you know, life in elementary school, and I entered to the high school, the local high school, and I had excellent teacher, Albert Todt. He knew so much that, you know, I wanted to know as much as he does, and then when he told that I can be a scientist, I knew that he knows things, and so I believed, and I decided that I will be a scientist. I haven't seen one in this small agricultural town, nobody was scientist. And he came up with the idea that we would send letters to famous Hungarian scientists. Okay, anyway, we couldn't speak English because in school we couldn't learn. So we could send in Hungarian. And what was important for me that we sent a letter to János Seje, who was in the 1930s coined the word stress. Prior to that, it was only in physics. He demonstrated that the stress can kill you. And he also showed that you need stress, but it has to be positive stress. The anticipation, excitement, and so that you have to practice and learn how to change the negative stress to positive one. And I have to say, we mentioned about book. If I don't read this book at age 16, I would not sit here. I wouldn't have the Nobel Prize in my pocket, definitely, because, you have to learn that how to handle stress. And because stress is coming that we always want somebody else to do something, your wife, your superiors, and your children, and nobody is doing what you want. And that's the stress is coming. And this philosophy, what he was put forward is about, the Stoic philosophy. You focus on what you can do. You cannot change other people that what they should do. And so that it calms you down immediately because, you don't have to worry about anything else, just what you can change. And he also mentioned that you shouldn't complain, blame others, because then you have to do nothing. It is other people's fault. So stop doing that and, just find out that what you can do. And I was reading and we practiced, actually we discussed in high school that, if you are upset with somebody, don't think about revenge, slashing their tires or, something horrible, because he says that it hits you back, it hit back, and then it escalates, and you cannot calm down and get this homeostasis in your psyche. And also then don't carry grudge against others, because you are the only one who will be poisoned. Another person won't even remember. Importance is you have to enjoy what you are doing, especially your work, because that's how you spend your life. And so this importance of mental health and the physical health, which is there. And so I was mentioned that I was running. I have to say that, okay, I ran the marathon, 4 hours, 30 minutes. I was 45 years old. You can beat that time. But I was usually run just shorter distance. Here in high school, we also discussed that, and based on the Shire book, that, what you have in your life is you set up a goal, something like, like when I was writing about Linden, I wrote an essay about him or writing something. And you set up the goal and you reach it, and that's it. I never get any award or something. It's not important. Just that the goal to achieve it, and then it is done. But, later when the goals were more complicated, reality hits in and, you have faced difficulties. So you always had to go back and think that what is, the ultimate goal. And then you can break those walls and whatnot. Important is that you have to believe in yourself, that you are able to do it. And of course, how you can get all of the experience and all of this in life is something that you have to get out from your comfort zone, because that's how you can learn. And what is important is not just learning, I moved out my comfort zone many times. I left, my home, I went to America. That was a cultural shock. Then I left America, coming, back to Germany, now going back. So you learn more about yourself than even from the new environment. You will realize that you are able to do things which if you are not challenged, you wouldn't even discover. So, this life is difficult because what happens, you have to make a decision. And wherever you are in your life, you at there because you made decision. And Shaya said that do not ever think about what if. People are wasting their life thinking that, oh, what if I would have, it's done. Just you have to, what is coming the forward, that's what you have to always think. And so that make always the decision, and you make the decision and don't hesitate that why you have, because it is already happened. So all of this happened in elementary, high school, and now I entered University of Szeged. I went there because the Biological Research Centre actually opened on the same year when I started at the university in 1973. And that was my dream, to work in this new building. I will be a scientist, my teacher told me so. And I imagined that I will be in this white coat and doing at bench work. So I went there when I was undergraduate student, and the head of the lab said that I should rather go to a field trip. So he said I should collect some water fleas. So that it was very different what I imagined, but I did paid attention, and went to this fishery and did the experiment. A little radioactive material I carried with me. It was C14, so it was nothing too dangerous. And then this experiment, and that was my first publication. And so when I went back to the lab in the fall, that happened that two scientists were there who come up with, they get this idea that we will deliver nucleic acid with the liposome. And so that for this one, they needed the lipid team help, and because we needed this certain phosphatidyl serine, phosphatidyl ethanol amine mix to make this liposome. And it was available in Germany, in Deutschmark, I don't know, but it was under embargo, I don't know, it was a dangerous material, I don't know why, and then, again, learn there, Erne found the article, how to isolate these phospholipids. He had to just go to the slaughterhouse and bring some co-brain, and we spent a week, opened the windows, and then extracted with ethanol ether and all of these organic solvent. Finally, we get this reaction. So we learn that if you want to do something, you find a way. If you don't, then you find excuses. So what happened that I was working in this lab, and this is mine. And one day, the head of the RNA lab, Jenő Thomas, came, and he asked me that whether I want to do a PhD in his lab and with RNA. So you see that I am not a visionary person who imagined that after liposome coming, doing RNA work. It was just discovered that this 2' 5' short RNA molecule has antiviral effect. So I started to work there in the RNA lab to do my PhD with János Ludwig, who is now working in Bonn. And of course, how we started, and already our supervisor went for sabbatical to the United States. So two graduate students worked together, and we published our work. Shreya says that, you cannot go more than 6 months without somebody encouraging you or motivate you. So I work also later also in life, by myself. And my husband told me that he can make this equipment, and so I can tap my shoulder because nobody is around. Anyway, so I work in this RNA laboratory, and we run out of funding. And so what happened is that we were 1984. We were still in the Hungary. I married 45 years. We just celebrated in October with my husband, and our daughter was just day before yesterday was 43 years old. So here is just 2 years old. We had to pack and then go to America. So here we are, 85. We are already here in Philadelphia. We are smiling, but I have to say maybe I was the only scientist never wanted to go there. I was very happy in Hungary, but the only job I could get, I tried to apply in Europe, but I was not eligible from behind the Iron Curtain to get any kind of financial support. So that I don't know whether you are dreaming about go to America. Just nod a little bit that I can see you, yeah. But, when I went there, it was 1985. For me, the most interesting thing an important thing was that I could go to listen lectures. There were no internet. You see, I made this special, so I hope that no mistake in it, but 92, the gene bank, PubMed, 1996. I went there, 85. There were no PubMed, there were no YouTube, 2005. So that, if you want to learn something, what is going on the science world, you had to go to the lecture. And I remember we drove to New Jersey because we could listen a lecture about HIV. And otherwise, you don't get the information that what happened. And Bob Gallo was talking about, what they found. And you would see that the room was, because the people just could learn from such a live presentation. So for me, that was important. Maybe today, I don't know, maybe other reason, what learning or just get out your comfort zone and go somewhere hostile environment. That's also good. So what happened, I ended up in Philadelphia, and I worked there. And also working with this small RNA molecule, we tried to make antiviral compound because the major problem was actually HIV. And, this is a very early day when I cleaned up lab because it was very messy. And that was when every equipment I moved, it was cockroaches were underneath. So I had to clean RNA lab. And that was, I realized in the US, everything is bigger. The cockroaches is bigger, that big. In Hungary, we just have the tiny one. And so I was working there, and eventually we couldn't make this 2'5' molecule to be antiviral, so we made this mismatched double-stranded RNA, and we treated 10 HIV-infected patients in 1986. So that, I worked with RNA, with short RNA, we did longer RNA, we did this double-stranded RNA. But here, I got the job offer, after 3 years, I worked in this project. We get a lot of publication, but Professor Suhadolnyik wanted me to stay there. So eventually, when I told him that I get the job offer at Johns Hopkins, that, he get very upset and he want to deport me, and also call up Johns Hopkins that I am fugitive, so I never worked there. But I went and ended up in Uniform Service University of Health Sciences, which was in Bethesda. So I commuted from Philadelphia to Bethesda. Later in life, I realized that from Philadelphia to Mainz, so that's even longer commute. And here, my family stay in Philadelphia, and we couldn't afford to rent 2 apartments, and so I slept in the office there. So I was the first one and the last one in the lab. Anyway, so after 9 months, this hardship, I get a job in University of Pennsylvania in a faculty position and start to work with a cardiology department. And so I made RNA. And, maybe something, I had to go to Bethesda because, and all of this time I had the library closed at 11 o'clock in the evening, and I read everything what I could find. And then I came to this conclusion that why the people are not using messenger RNA for therapy, because they use antisense, and it's much more difficult because you have to find the target. And so I formulated there that messenger RNA is the future. So everything happens for something in life, maybe. Anyway, I work in cardiology, and I generated RNA. I convinced my colleague that RNA is the next thing and important, and he was interested in this molecule, urokinase receptor, and it was modified post-translationally, and whatever, we delivered the RNA, and cell knew what to do. But Elliot left, and then meantime I was also demoted from the faculty position, and then I got a job at neurosurgery, where I worked 24 years. And this, if you have never seen a research lab in the lower left corner, you can see this is how it, this is a neat, nice lab. That was mine. And I worked by myself because, I couldn't get grant. You can see that funding was low, no lab coat. Only after I was a photo shoot, when I get the awards, then I get the new lab coat, or the only lab coat. And so that I was working there and tried to get funding, probably if you are scientists, you also try that. And what happened is that it seems, they say today, the smart one, that according to this Harvard Business Review, what is happening that in the insiders, where everything, the money, power, and influence, privilege there, they are getting the funding, and similar ideas they are working. And if something like the messenger RNA was something that nobody was interested, I was there and I had the freedom and nothing but is inside, the respect or something. But they said that I had to have a connection to those who had, or at least one person. And that was first Elliot Barnett and then later David Langer, who had the influence. And so I get a little salary. That's why I could survive. Because if you don't get money, you cannot survive. But if you cannot convince the grant agency, but at least one colleague who has the money, then you can survive and proceed. So why is happening, a researcher is there, we are doing research, we get result and we publish it because we want to share the important things with colleagues. And then we write a grant because we formulate an idea and we want to test out something. And usually people get money. I didn't get that in the circle. I go back to do more research because no money. But those who get the money, they get bigger team, they had students and so on. And now that they are publishing because the student had to graduate, get the PhD. So then they are publishing when nothing to say. And they also publish because that's what they count. And then they referencing. And then somehow, the promotion, the advancing the career is getting in the attention and not, scientific knowledge and increasing it. So how we would say that, the goal of the research should be to understand nature. And that was the 19th century. Scientists were trying to understand nature, but today scientists want to publish in nature. And so, David is left everything. I met Drew Weissman, who was interested in vaccine development, and together we discovered that modifying the RNA in uridine in the RNA that makes it non-inflammatory, it highly translate and so on. So that with this discovery, what we did, like in US usually, submit, get a patent on it, establish a company. I am telling here this is very important because in Europe, 83%, 2 years ago at least the data is, 83% of the patent is not used. So it is just, the discovery is not developed because you are not making company and try to pursue and further and explore that how useful the idea could be. So it seems, that we did an experiment here with Drew Weissman and everything was good. My daughter got 2 gold medals. She got the second one in the Olympics in London and one in Beijing for the US women 8. And everything was good. And then I lost my job at University of Pennsylvania. They forced me to retire and my stuff was on the hallway. So you know that it could happen to you. You think that you never be fired, but it could happen, the young one and even the not so young one. And you have to realize that, fighting it or feeling sorry for yourself is no time for that when you are losing your job. You have to focus on what next. All of your energy had to, because that's what you can change. The other things is already somebody made a decision over you. So at that point, I could stay at home. We had a home, but I felt that I have more to give, and so I came to Germany and started to work with Özlem and Ugur, and that building was not ready. We were just a handful of people on the campus in Mainz, and today is 6,700 employees. And so that we were doing a lot of optimization and other things with the RNA and, on much bigger scale. And you are probably remember that, how the COVID vaccine was developed. January 12, we learned the sequence information. Actually, it was earlier there and the gene bank. But, when Yang Zhang put there, nobody paid attention. So even he had to ask Ed Holmes, Australian scientist, to put on Twitter to see people, the data is there. So that everything, even the Twitter was important to the message, get out the message. And by January 12, we learned the sequence information, and in March already Moderna started injecting the volunteers. And so the information was sufficient. If this pandemic happens 20 years before, then everybody needs a little package from Wuhan to start with a biological material. And yes, after that, I went to this Nobel Prize ceremony, and everybody who's important there, my husband, my daughter and her husband and my sister, and here are, the people who I work with, the liposome, and people that were teaching me with biochemistry and genetics, and of course those people who helped me in the US, and my young fellows who are also here today with us. And usually when I get an award, I also thanks to those people who were, try to make my life difficult, because they made me work harder, more resilient. I did not invite those to this. That only those, and then, my daughter again outshined me because she was the best dressed in the party. But that's good. And so what left for me, that I have to inspire next generation. I didn't write this book, others did. With Drew Weissman, we are working very hard here, and those are in different languages. I myself, as I mentioned, I wrote this book about my life, and all of this good advice from Shaya is there, and this is out in many different languages. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
I would like to start by introducing our panelists. I don't think the one in the center requires an introduction. And next to Professor Karikó, we have got Dr. Kata Horváti, who is a chemist and group leader of the Momentum Peptide-Based Vaccines Research Group at the Research Centre for Natural Sciences, which is part of the Hungarian Research Network. And she's also here as the representative of the Hungarian Junge Akademie. On her right, we have got Dr. Hani Harb, who is Assistant Professor of Infectious Immunology at Dresden University of Technology, and he is a board member of the Junge Akademie of Germany. And he's also the founder and board member of the German Syrian Research Foundation, and a member of the Young Leaders Academy within Utopia European University Alliance, amongst many other things. Thank you very much for joining us here today. Kata, what was the most inspiring part of the presentation that we just heard?
So thank you very much for the invitation. What inspired me the most is that you have a great and depth insight on the scientific literature. We know that you did a huge work on it, and we also learned that this changed a lot in the last few decades. And how? What do you think about the future of publication and the trends in the publication?
Oh, that was the question to me.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was doing mRNA research, I didn't show here, but like every year there was one publication. So it was easy for me to follow the literature. And those publications were like 3 to 5 pages, not like 33 in these days. And so probably you have more difficulties to follow the literature. And so what I did, usually I set up a PubMed alert, Google alert for people or for teams or different field of. So that's what usually I follow certain people, because there are so many non-reliable work out there, and so yes, this is. Did I answer that?
Yes,
Yeah?
thank you very much.
And Hani, what about you? What inspired you the most?
Yeah, thanks so much. First of all, I would like to thank you for the ability to be here. So thank you so much. Actually, it was very inspiring whenever you were discussing about stress, how we can really develop any negative stress more into positive stress. And it would be really nice to understand your insights. You showed us the wave timeline, and how were you able to channel all this negative stress you had into more of a positive energy?
I had the advantage actually in high school, you know, for example, we practiced it, so it was not in the book. You know, you can read the book, people told me that it is not there in Shea's book, but it was like something that, such a simple thing like, you hurt somebody because you said something you shouldn't. And then what Shea said, that you are wasting your time because you think, I shouldn't say, yeah, but he started, and you know, I should have, nah, because, and then we learn that we have to go there and say, please forgive me, and that's it. Even the person is not forgiving or not, or forgiving you or not, it doesn't matter. You, what he said, you shouldn't have your well-being depend on somebody else's decision. So, and when you go there, don't say that, please forgive me, but really you started. No, because, you know, then you are again escalating things. So this is so simple, but so many times you can feel that, okay, that's what I have to do. I say something, forgive me, and that's it. For you, it is closed. So that, and then of course, there are bigger things. I don't have to say that, you know, sometimes, you know, I could calm down. Sometimes, you know, under the table, my middle finger went up sometimes. But, you know, eventually, you know, I was always try to stay calm. And because you think about, like, I thought that I am right on something, but then I'm thinking, it's not worth the energy to be right. Who cares? It's not important. And so many things you can drop it, not important. Some people, you know, they want to last word that it will be theirs. Forget it. And not even forgiving or something, just ignoring. That's the advice I give you.
And what kept you going all these years? What kept you motivated when all of these things kept happening to you?
So the experiment was good. So every time, you know, the performance of the RNA could be improved, you know, after purifying it or changing different, like the different end of the RNA, put a polyet, put a better cap, and modifying. Then formulation came. So, you know, first we used we used lipofectin, and then we came with transit. We could use in vivo. So actually, I could see the progress, and those people who judged me, or they couldn't see. So that the progress. So people ask me, you know, other professionals that, you know, repeating the experiment. Should I give up? I mean, if it is you don't get progress, then I think you should change. So for the sake of it, you don't have to not giving up, but you have to see progress.
You know, maybe some of you have heard this expression, the Karikó problem. And in your book, you mention, oh, how great, now a problem is named after me. Fantastic. And this refers to an article that came out in 2022 that basically discusses the case about scientists who have a brilliant idea, but the idea goes unnoticed until one day, against all odds, it somehow gets out and becomes huge. And basically the article goes on to discuss, now what should we do now to find those people with that brilliant idea now, and how can we support them? And it also goes on to discuss about, you know, the metrics that are used now in science to evaluate and attach some kind of price or value on a person. And maybe we should reconsider that. And I was wondering, Kata, what are your thoughts on this whole system of evaluation that exists now?
So the idea of funding persons, not projects, it's a great idea, but it's far from operational. And we are assessed by numbers. We need to collect number. So we are evaluated in number of publication, number of citation, amount of money that we won from grants, and we should somehow change this research assessment, and we need to reform it. So what would be your thoughts? How should we reform this research assessment?
Yeah, so people ask me, you know, how I would change the system, because, you know, but I really, you know, really don't know. I know that how it can compromise the people. I just read Csaba Santos' book describing that the PI or some scientist reading an article get for evaluation, and he could see, oh, this is a horrible, oh my God, this is so, oh, they reference me. Oh, another reference. Okay, I accept. So slipping like this way, you know, that because it compromises this counting references and this. What I said every time, I could just see that the person can be changed. You can change yourself, but not the system. I don't know what should be measured, because it was the measure, the references and the publication, but you know, now that's the goal, and you, or not you, but other people, you know, who are not here, ordering in a paper mill articles, or leaving out some data here and there to get some good publication. And so I don't know that how you can spot it or what you can do, but you can change. Yeah, you should be honest and make the data reproducible, and every time behave in a way that you can look at the mirror and you are proud of that who you are. That's what can be the person, us.
That's wonderful advice. The whole be proud of the person that you are part. I couldn't agree more. And you know, just thinking back on your story, in '85 you packed up your whole family, your young child, your husband, and you moved all the way across to the other side of the world and started a whole new life. And then in 2013, you did the same thing, and this time you came to Germany, this time on your own, leaving between two continents, flying back and forth to see your family. These are huge, huge steps. First of all, what gave you the courage to do that? And second of all, do you have any advice for young researchers, young scientists? Because I believe a lot of researchers nowadays, they find themselves either short-term or long-term in a foreign country, doing exchange programs, etc.
So I have to say that when I moved back to Germany, I was 58 years old, and the first week I fall asleep by crying. Am I crazy? What am I doing? My husband is there, we have a house, and now I am in the attic, and every day I dress from a suitcase, because somebody was still living in this attic beside me. Yeah. So all of the clothes were there, and you know, that was practice when I get all of this award, and then again from the suitcase I was dressing day after day. But so it was a difficult situation, because I always said that 20 minutes is the Frankfurt airport. Nobody is shooting, so I can just take a direct flight back. And but after you know, 1 week, I had so many things to do that I was get busy and you know, focused on what to do. But you know, going to America from Hungary from '85, no telephone, no credit card, no nothing, you know, and it was kind of riskier. And we had together with my husband a 2.5-year-old child, but coming, you know, it was easier Germany, but it was questionable that am I crazy to do that, and so it. Right now, the situation in the U.S. is not that good, you know, it is against science and people such. And so I thought that maybe also those American scientists maybe will come here, or, you know, pack in, and they learn Chinese and they learn the life there. And because the scientists want to do something, you know, they find a way. Or excuses, I already said that today. But so that's what I think. That was the question? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Hani, as someone who has a lot of personal experience with this topic as well, why do you think it is so important, the mobility for young researchers?
I think it's something that you mentioned, like going outside of your comfort zone. I first moved to Germany in 2008, end of 2005, beginning of 2006. I was 22 years old, and then I stayed in the same department for 11 years. I got a couple of opportunities, but like all the time I was like, no, I'm staying there. So the big breakthrough happened when I went out of my comfort zone and said like, okay, no, I really need to do the next jump, and I moved to the US. So that's the whole sense of mobility. That's why like I always encourage my students currently is like, you need to go to conferences, you need to apply for internships, studentships, anywhere. Like I can help you write to the professors, but like you really need to change the scenery so you can learn something new, not only on the scientific level, but like on the cultural level, on the way of thinking, way of analyzing problems, and all of these stuff. So this is really important, and this is part of the whole journey. And right now, it seems to me that the more we have this technology, with ChatGPT, AI and stuff, people get lazier and lazier. And it's like, why should I move if I can have anything? If I write it to ChatGPT, I will get it. And that's what I wanted to ask actually. Do you think that this new technology is getting us backwards on science, or?
I mean, I see everything that there is a tool, and depending on how you use it. So just like, the knife, you can slice the bread, or you can kill somebody, or, the drone can carry the medicine or the bomb. And so that we can use it as helping us, but, also it can alienate, and we will be lonely and talking to somebody who's not existing, It seems right now that, the question I ask is not smart enough yet. So, give me the wrong answer, so I don't rely on that. Still, I use my brain to think and not artificial intelligence.
That's actually, this is a very important advice, I think, like for the young generation here, that they really need to read, try to analyze, and not always rely on ChatGPT or Gemini, right?
Yeah. So, and that so many things change. I am 70 years old, so young one here. The life is ahead of you. But one thing is change. Didn't change. That is, you have 24 hours a day, and you have. Yeah, I had to go to the library. I had to find a book, scan it and read it and whatnot, and you click, and then everything is there electronically. But you have all of these emails and TikTok, or I don't know. Probably you don't watch that, but so many distraction is there, and it is very difficult, because your life just moves on, and then you realize, oh, life is and then you did not accomplish something which is meaningful.
True.
So,
may I add just one sentence to the mobility question, because the Hungarian Junge Akademie was always very active in putting together surveys and questionnaires to explore the situation and the opinion of young researchers. And we also had data on mobility, how it affects scientific career. And if we see the trends, it's absolutely obvious that if we have the number of months spent abroad conducting research, and if we see the scientific performance, number of publications, grants amount, whatever, it's absolutely clear. So it's really affecting the performance. And it can also explain the glass ceiling that we can observe in the case of female researchers, or in the case of researchers with young children. If the mobility is impaired, then the career and the performance can be also affected. So it's also a very important part.
And somebody's like, I moved to the United States, I realized that I became so more tolerant. So, in Hungary, that kind of person I was, and when I went back, I could see myself in other people's because they remain there. But if you go abroad, you start to understand other things, and you tolerant will be.
And you know, when you made that move, you didn't just move countries, but you also basically went from being an academic researcher and moved on to industry. Do you have any advice for people who maybe are thinking of doing the same? Because, you know, sometimes when you think, okay, science, universities, academic institutions, but that's not the only place where you can do science and where science can make a difference.
Yeah, so I have to say, in academia, I was not very successful. You know that I was demoted that many times, and so I never published 100 papers. Because, you know, when you do the experiment, you write the paper and you do all apart, you cannot publish 400 papers in your life. So that was not successful because that's what they measured, that number. And then when I went, and I could see other scientists, when they started to some kind of project, they wouldn't even start. Who will be the first author, last author? They already fighting over that. And when I went to biotech, you know, everybody had to work together, and there were no author. We have to have a product. It was the goal was so much more meaningful that we have to have improve the product and come up with something, because otherwise we can go home. So that you know, in a small company, best if you establish yourself. You know, write a patent and get your own company, and then you can work 24/7. But you can feel that it is yours, and you have that influence. And when we were smaller in biotech, I could feel that, you know, what am I doing? What I was doing has an impact. You know, if you go in a big company, you might don't even see the whole process, but you know, that little unit, whatever you are working on, but that's also could be very helpful. And everywhere, you know, they could terminate the program, even if it is industry or in academia, you don't get the money. So my experience that the industry was more meaningful. And especially, you know, that if you establish, because we established the company RNARX, and you never nodded that you heard that, because, you know, the university gave the patent to somebody else. Even it was with Drew Weissman, it was our patent, and we established our company, but, you know, the university makes decision. So it is good to go to the industry. I enjoy.
And something else that Kata mentioned before regarding the glass ceiling and this whole situation with, you know, mothers in science, that's a topic that's close to my heart. Professor Karikó, what would you say as a mother yourself, as a woman in science, what is your biggest piece of advice for young girls and young women who maybe are either dreaming of a career in science or are already in it, and they're encountering certain challenges that are very specific to mothers and women in science?
Yeah, but I don't know whether somebody from the government is here, because for me it was important that we had affordable, high-quality childcare when my daughter was, you know, baby, and I could live she was 3 months old, and she could stay in the nursery for nominal fee, and every day registered nurses were there. Every day a pediatrician came, and we could send a message that check out something. We didn't have to go to the doctor, and whether the pediatrician said, oh, okay, go to, is this serious, or that's normal. You know, if you never had a child before, you don't know what is normal and not. And so it was very, very important, and in many countries, maybe it's not here in Germany, but other countries, that is very expensive and not, you know, anxious to be all day long, you know, that you left with an old lady like your child and you don't know what's going on. But, you know, my advice, if you don't have a husband yet, for the young one, I can say, make sure that beside, you know, okay, it can be handsome, the husband, but make sure that, you know, can see that you have a dream and will support. And if you have a child, then the father is just as much responsible. So make sure that you select a guy such. And if guys are here, please be such. And for you have a child, and you know, don't overdote, because you know you want the child to learn how to stand up, how to fail, and all of these things. And if you arrange everything, you know, in the university, they will be accepted, and all of these things, because that's what the parents try to be so protective, but it harms the child, because it will not be so proud that I worked for it, I made it, I did it. So. And anyway, don't try to be perfect mother, wife, whatever role you have, because you have no time for that. And so, you know, that there were many times my daughter was like a softball or basketball game or something, you know, I was not there, and some other parents took her home, or, you know, it takes a village, and everybody contributed. And so it is... you help out. I also helped out, rarely, but, you know, with other kids, so that, you know, together with maybe parents, grandparents could help, make sure that everybody helps. And of course, the child. I have to say, we lived in a good neighborhood in the US, and my daughter was elementary school, and she said that, you know, they had to write what they are doing at the weekend, and said, Mom, I was the only one who vacuuming. And so, but, you know, they have to contribute. I grew up the same way, you know, that with my sister, you know, we did, in Saturday we were still in school, Sunday was, you remember, behind the Iron Curtain, Communist Sunday. My parents had to go. With my sister, she was cooking. Because 3 years younger, so I am 3 years younger, so I was always the lower job. So I made the fire, peeled the potato, or when we play school, you know, she was the teacher, I was the pupils, or when we play, you know, store, you know, selling something, I was the customer, and she was selling. So that, yeah. That's it. Don't overdo it. You know, you don't have time for that. And believe me, how my daughter turned out, 5 times world champion, 2 times Olympic champion. You know, she wanted. She could see that my husband and I am working hard, and you know, and she wanted to also achieve something. You know, so that it is better to show the example, because you can sit and watch TV and say, you know, do your homework. And I know that people, last time I was talking, the young one in Frankfurt, and they said that it was not nice that I left my daughter, you know, and not with her. But, you know, when I was there, I was with her. And many parents may be at home, and they're watching, you know, the telephone, and the child is watching TV, you know. They are together, but they are not really. Yeah.
And, you know, we mentioned this question of mothers in science a lot. Hani, do you have a perspective of a father in science? Does that come with any special challenges?
Actually, yes. I don't know if it's a special case, because my wife and I, we share everything 50-50, as well as childcare. And you knew today that I was bringing my children actually from Dresden here, because my wife was traveling, and the only way of doing this is bringing them with me from Dresden here. Thankfully, the neighbor was kind enough. She said, like, no, I will watch them. Like, you don't need to take them like traveling between cities and states. But when I was in the US, that was the first thing I had. Like, I went to my boss. I was in Boston, Harvard Medical School. I went in and said, like, okay, I'm working from, I don't care, I'll start 4 a.m. But like at 4:45, I'm out, I'm picking up my daughter from daycare. I don't care if like hell is loose, or like experiments or mice are running around the lab. I really don't care. 4:45, I'm leaving. You have other people, but I'm ready to come at 4. Huh? 4 a.m., I'm starting my experiments, and I did that for 4 years. Starting at 4 a.m., at 4:45 p.m., I was always outside of the lab, because family comes first. End of 2020, we moved back to Germany because of family. We decided, okay, Trump, USA, we were mid of the pandemic. Although I just had a great publication and I was offered an assistant professorship in Harvard, we said like, okay, we can't live with a salary of a scientist in the US, especially in Boston. So we decided to go back to Germany. So it's always perspective. What's most important? Is it like really the job and doing the things, or the family? As Katalin said, like when we are with our children, we are really with our children. It's not like, okay, they're there and we're just doing nothing, but like it's the only time we have with them. Otherwise, we are stuck in the lab. So.
With my daughter, actually, what happened that she was when multiplication, we study, and she read it, and then of course she couldn't remember. She didn't know how to memorize, and so when we sit in the car, I pick her up in school, and I start to say that 24, and then she had to say 3 times 8 or something, and 2 times 12. And so that's what, even we practice something. And once it happened, I pick her up and we just driving, and she said, "Mom, ask." So it was a game, and everything you can make it that it is fun, not too much work. So make it fun.
I had another question for you, something that you mention in your book, but you rarely ever talk about. In 2016, when you were here, Germany, you were diagnosed with cancer, and you underwent surgeries. You had paralysis of your face for some time, and you were here far away from your family all that time. Did you still have to go to work during that time? How did you manage that whole period?
Yeah, so that when I get this removed, the parotid gland had a tumor in it. My first operation, we had to, so my sister came, the second, my daughter came, so she was here when I was in the operation room. And then, like half of my face was like rather disgusting, the saliva was coming. And I went to work. Everybody wished that I wouldn't be there, but then, I want to feel that I am normal. I can do, still I can think, although I couldn't talk normally, but so that's kind of interesting, that how you want to be, you have a disease and you want to be normal, and I am there by showing up. So everybody wished, and I could stay home for a month or something until all of the nerve came back, but that the person is inside, because then I would feel that, okay, maybe I am so sick and not recover, or I don't know what was the feeling, but I was there. I think within 1 week I was back.
That's absolutely incredible.
I don't know, maybe I was stupid. No.
It was just really surprising to me that in the book it's so nonchalant, it's 2 sentences about it, and then you just go to the rest of the story like it was nothing. And I was stuck there at those 2 sentences thinking, what? What just happened there? Because it was really something. Kata, do you have any more questions for Professor Karikó?
So related to your book, because actually it helped me a lot. You had a sentence at the very end of the story that when you realize that
sudden, they are running and here's the last one. What will make that child to the decision that I won't go anymore because I don't want to lose, or say that I will work so hard that next time when I go to this city competition, I will be the number one. What would take? Because that's so simple. That what makes somebody that put extra energy and extra thing, and because wanted, instead of just saying, who cares? I don't like to lose. So that's what, the question. That I don't know the gene, we have to still clone it, and to learn how to turn on.
And Hani, do you have any more questions for Professor Karikó?
Yes, I have actually a question about science here. So in 2020, when the Boston Globe came with an article, I started digging up the people who were doing this. I was still in the US. And then I went to my boss and said, like, I need to patent my findings. Because I saw you the patent and said, like, I need to patent my findings. And I did that, and I established a company as well. So I thought, like, okay, this is the way, huh? Like, if this is how it's going, I wasn't thinking of the Nobel Prize, I was thinking of the money. I was like, okay, if this may bring me the money. So when we moved back here and I started working here, I'm sensing that, however, you said like 82% of all these patents go to waste. What's your perspective of the competitiveness of the European science compared now to the world science? Like, are we still competitive enough so we can build and initiate and create new things? Because I'm losing this faith of that.
Yeah, actually mentioning this filing a patent, I might mention first that it costs money. So if you pay from your own pocket, this is about $10,000. So actually, when we want to file a patent in the US, that in the patent office, the guy wanted to know, the officer there, what is really needed and whatnot. And he had no hair, and I said, he asked what is good for, and so he has no hair, and I said, maybe for hair growth. He said, oh, really? That's important. So sometimes, actually, in life, you have to find things, like when Professor Suhadolnyik, kick me out and try, who I cannot get a support letter, recommendation letter, and what should I do? And then, I realized he had several enemies. Now I had to call and tell them that I need a job. So you have to sometimes, come up with alternative things. But, in the patent is somehow it, the difference between the United States and Europe, how science is performed. In the United States, the university, there is no research centers like here. It's split here, in Hungary also. There are academia and there is universities. There is not. So that, and the university is the best scientists. And, they, isn't that in Harvard or other Ivy Leagues? And so that, they have great students, and then somebody has idea immediately that students is just graduate and he will be the CEO, and the professor is standing behind and try to help them get money and nurture their things. So that if you don't have a company, I mean, if at the University of Pennsylvania they put on the shelf that, pseudouridine, and some investors coming, he won't say, oh my God, pseudouridine, I want to develop. No, because they don't understand. Who is doing the experiment understand the best that how it could be useful for something. And that's what somehow is not, I don't know whether there is not enough, that there are people who have money, but I don't know whether, they want to invest or not much, but in the US is more like willing to give the money for startups and venture capitalists, looking for what they should support. And maybe it's less this year, and that's more difficult to start a company. because you have to get the money from somewhere and convince investors. So I don't know that whether that is the reason that there is no money going towards companies, small companies, biotech companies, because and also maybe the taking the risk to leave your job, the permanent job, and now instead of 8 hours, you have to work 24 hours because now it is your company and you want to develop something, and so it is more comfortable to get a good job at the university or somewhere company, big company, and you are an employee. But then you are an employee, and you have to do what others are telling you to do.
True, yeah.
Thank you very much for this wonderful discussion. We would now like to open the floor to the audience. We have some people already in the back. We would like to kindly ask, please, to first ask the questions related to the presentation of Professor Karikó and then to anything that we discussed just now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm very honored to meet or to have heard Professor Karikó. And my question is about the human aspect of the scientific developments. So I'm not a scientist, by the way. So when scientists are developing something, are in a project, are they also considering the impact this would have on humanity? And my question is based on my experience as well, because as many people in the world who are not scientists, I came I got to know the name of Professor Karikó in the middle of the pandemic. And I come from Peru, which is a country that was severely hit by the pandemic. The numbers were very high. And my family was following the development of the vaccine with a very high interest. And when the vaccine was announced, we celebrated, and we were so happy to have this hope. And so this, I come from the humanities, so I really don't have any scientific base at all. And it was a motivation to know more about this mRNA and everything. And so I think that scientific projects, scientific work has an impact on a human impact. And I would like to know a little bit more about this connection. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I gave interview to the Peruvian radio during the pandemic because it is very important to educate the public, and that's why we are here. And every time somebody asks me, I try to help, because that's the problem. That's my opinion why US get where it is right now is because we scientists, we did not explain many things. Because I like to talk to my fellow colleagues here, scientists, and not to try to explain to somebody who has no science knowledge. But we have to accept that if the vaccine and other medication is not accepted by society, then they will not take it. And we have a responsibility, to explain that how things works, and because you are fearing only things, which you don't know. And, it's very nice that you don't have the science background. You are here today, you said words, mRNA and other things that you try to learn, and we have to help you and others. And when I was working, actually, you asked humanity, day one, the professor who was in the RNA lab, he came from the industry, and so I always wanted to do something which is helping somebody. And I always thought about disease. that treats somebody, who would, relieve the pain. And so in cardiology also, I try to make some helpful product with this urokinase receptor, and later I want to develop a product for stroke treatment. And this, how we work, scientists, is that we do observation, we read articles, and we form something that we understand something about a phenomenon or disease or something, and then we create a hypothesis that probably things are this way or that way. And to prove it, we design and perform experiments, and then, confirm or turn that hypothesis over. And so that's how we, and I don't know that if somebody works in a very specific molecular field might not see that how it could be benefit the society and from the discovery, but you have to believe that every knowledge is, there is a next scientist is coming and will take the next level, and then with a better understanding, we will have some medicine. Like, there is another things in the medicine is like a Cas9, an enzyme, which they discover in the bacteria. They discover some kind of interesting phenomenon. And then, the scientists are thinking, and then they discover what it is. They describe and come up the idea that, oh, maybe we can use for altering the genes for somebody who has disease. And so this is how the scientists are very nice and good people. Just the industry, makes it Frankenstein films and other things, so not a good light we are shown. But, I think that scientists are thinking about to making good things and relieve pain and help others. Yeah, you can comment.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, whatever you said, like, we're all, whenever we see the scientists in the movies, they're like, we don't have these labs, or like, we're not that crazy. It's our work actually is to build something, but I agree with you. We really need to, us as scientists, we need to go out from our comfort zone and go into more of science communication, and to communicate our science to the public so we can educate everyone why we're doing this. I'm from Dresden, and we have one of the highest levels of people not getting vaccinated because of the misinformation that was distributed in 2020 and 2021. And this is something we really need to work on. And I think this is as well something that people who understand communication need to help us to communicate this outside our comfort zone and reach it to people.
Do we have any further questions?
Yes, thank you. I'm also not from science, but I'm a co-founder of a school in Budapest. So my question is related to education. From your story, we learned that your approach to life and how you face struggles and hardship and stress and all these kind of things were at least as important to your success as your scientific experience and knowledge. Still, if we look around what's going on in the education systems around the world, I don't really see that kind of thing in the curriculum, what I mentioned first. So what do you think, why is that? And maybe the second part is that maybe using your fame and connections now in Hungary, maybe could you help introduce this kind of approach to the education system? Thank you very much.
Yeah. This is a very difficult question. I have to say that every week at least 2 proposals I got from different people, different field, because they think I get a Nobel Prize. Now I know everything. No, I don't. I don't know how to educate. What should be the emphasis? But it is on Friday. I have to give a lecture on the educational gathering in Hungary, and that was the hardest for me. I'm still preparing that presentation, because I don't know. I try to see that what other famous people were saying, you know, because what we know today, that's who is 20 years old or 18, what was 16 years old today, you know, what they will do 20, 30 years later, how you educate them for something that you have no clue what they will need. And I was reading what Neumann said, that flexibility and intelligence, and you know, just prior to that, it was the school to give information. Now that the information is everywhere, you don't even have to go to the libraries, you know, in the laptop, you can read everything. And so the information is not really, so what you should teach, what should be important. And so it is, I don't know. I don't know how, that's adapting. Okay, when I was in school, I also didn't learn how to use the computer, many things, and somehow, you know, when things is coming, you learn and adopt, and as a scientist, like in the laboratory, when I mastered the technique and some new technique came, I didn't care that I can make the best sequencing gel. I already moved on, the new one, because it's faster or better. And so that's how they have to somehow teach the kids. And other thing would be important more, that they learn to communicate. Maybe take away all of the gadget and just be together, understand, talk to each other, the children, or go out to the park and leave behind the telephone. And maybe that's what the teachers has to do. I don't know. Maybe that's what is missing. I don't know.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions?
Yeah, thanks. My question is related with the cycle which the researchers are doing. You know, we are doing, a lot of us are in fundamental research. We are doing research, we publish, we apply for grant proposal. And so maybe 2 years ago, I read a paper about some summary that female scientists in STEM sciences are getting less money for grants. And also it was a study that there is less chance if you are a female scientist and you are the last author or the first author of the publication to get higher impact factor journals. You have any advice how to break this ice in that direction for female researchers?
No, as I mentioned, I don't know everything. And, you know, interesting you mentioned this research. I might mention to you here, because I was realizing that we are not called searcher. We are searching, but we repeat. And that's why we are called researcher. Anyway, so that I don't know that, you know, how to change. I have to say that I did not experience, you know, that because I am a woman, maybe, you know, I have a disadvantage in the team, because whoever helped me were guys, and whoever demoted me and who was the nastiest was another woman. So, you know, I believe that the leader can be whatever gender they have, but it is a good leader will lead properly. And but I don't know about that how to change if it is measured that the women have, because they don't raise their voice or something, you know. My daughter said one day that, you know, oh, Mom, you know, I asked for salary increase. And I said, for what? I was listening to the radio when I was driving there, and they said that the women less likely, and I get it. So, you know, that you never know. That maybe, you know, we are not asking, maybe we are shy. Maybe we are just showing the middle finger under the table, not on the top of the table.
Do we have any further questions?
Yes, hello. I would like to refer to, everybody just turned, I would like to refer to one of your fellow panelists' take on startups and innovation. I'm coming from both from engineering and from business. And I think what made you a cultural icon, besides your approach, very humane and humble approach on success as a composition of tolerance and resilience and perseverance, was your impact on millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, as a fruit of BioNTech's vaccine. And what I am also interested in professionally in what makes university research and fundamental research from technology readiness level 1 to 9 and makes it an industry, makes it an industry standard, and how it creates business. And what I see, especially in the case of researchers, is their lack of ability to translate their findings into the world of business. And the current literature says that you have to compose multidisciplinary teams to overcome that barrier, which was not mentioned by you. So one of my questions is regarding that. What do you think is a good way to make this transition of laboratory to real world? Is it the composition of interdisciplinary groups? And the other one is how to introduce business professionals and scientists together, because according to my personal experience, many times researchers are shy, and it is very difficult to break the ice as a business professional, especially, even in the cases when you just purely have to help them pro bono with their research. So that is my question. Thank you very much.
I can start. So about the interdisciplinary teams, I think this is extremely important. So whenever we at that time, we started the company in the US, as you said, I'm a researcher, I have no idea about business. I took a couple of courses, but beside seed funding, Series A, B, C, whatever, I had absolutely no idea. So we had someone from business that comes and transform that science into a business model that can be sold to bigger companies or can be attract more investors. So this is for sure. And I think this is something that we lack everywhere, that we as scientists, we lack the tools how to transform our findings to a product, to a, as you said, to a final product that can be put on a shelf and can be sold. But I think this is, in the US, it's a much more advanced, and they have the whole system where you have the venture capitals and all these private banks, and they're willing to do this. While here in Germany, I feel that we are, or even in the whole Europe maybe, we are much more conservative in willingness to take risks, while they're, as you said, Katalin, they're much more willing to take risks. They are willing to invest in startup companies, while here there's like, unless the startup company has like a 90% chance of success, we're not taking risk on that. And this is the difference.
We also have a question here.
Ja, ich spreche auf Deutsch. Please translate, yeah.
I don't speak German, sorry.
I can translate.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Ja, Professor Karikó, bei dieser Corona-Impfung, Meinungen sind unterschiedlich. Ja. Einige sind zufrieden, dass dank dieses Impfung sie sind gesund geblieben, ja, ohne irgendwelche Beschwerden. Andere sind umgekehrt, sie haben schwierige Nebenwirkungen bekommen. Und deshalb auch in Amerika Robert Kennedy hat geplant oder macht jetzt Untersuchungen. Wie ist Ihre Meinung prinzipiell, wenn wir neue Pandemie haben? Müssen Leute dann so zwangsweise geimpft sein, sonst sind sie dann ausgeschlossen von Gesellschaft, von ihren Aktivitäten, oder sie können auf ihr Immunsystem sich verlassen, diejenigen das nicht möchten. Danke.
So she was asking, what's your opinion on the whole discussion about the vaccine can help people? Some people say the vaccine are not helping them. And now Robert Kennedy in the US. He is doing a lot of investigation to understand what's happening to this. And then her last question was about if people are not vaccinated, will they be somehow shut out from the society? Will this be a requirement? Like, unless you are vaccinated, you will not be able to work or to communicate with others or something like that?
These are policy questions. I have nothing to do with it. I am a scientist, so whoever, politician had rules that how to, who to vaccinate, what rules, it is nothing to do with me. And in many things, my opinion would require to investigate different things. I don't have time for that. I am a scientist, and based on data, I just follow that and try to do good things, and whatever, politician decide is nothing to do with me, and that's it.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions from the audience?
Yes. So, Professor Karikó, so I would like to ask you, how do you see the future of your technology? So what are the next steps? Maybe you elaborate a little bit, and also the cancer vaccine, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is at present more than 150 human clinical trial is ongoing with using messenger RNA. And half of them is infectious disease field. So they are against viruses and bacteria. Some is bacteria. The latest I was reading that acne, for example, for young one that could get vaccinated. Sanofi is developing. And there is, parasite like malaria. And the rest of the development is could be against cancer, but not all of them cancer vaccine. That if there is mutation occurring where the mutation results amino acid change and new different epitope is formed, then, they develop a vaccine against those new epitopes. But, for cancer field also, they are using mRNA coding for an antibody, because antibody is expensive as a protein, and they're using as a messenger RNA, so the body would make the protein. I was also in BioNTech, was part of the study when we developed mRNA that code for cytokines, and also went clinical trials, so it makes injecting to the tumor, like head and neck tumor or melanoma, and making the cold tumor hot, so the immune cells will run there and recognize and circulate and try to capture all of the circulating tumors. Beside that, there are rare diseases where they were using, and we are tomorrow or tonight, we start the messenger RNA therapy conference here, which we have already from 2013, and started in Tübingen, and then every year Boston and Berlin. And the main team is now using RNA against autoimmunity. So there, the main speaker, actually, he's not using the mRNA, is Györkös. And but scientists are coming that talk about how messenger RNA is used to treat autoimmune disease. Some messenger RNA-based generating CAR T cells, and those are already for myasthenia gravis is already phase 3, for lupus also in clinical trial. And the other important thing is actually that try to make the CAR T cells in vivo. So now, at present, they have to take out the cells from the patient, treat out of the body and put it back, and it is, $500,000 is the price tag minimum. And now that they try to put to the formulation, to the RNA is formulated and put molecules there, which whether it's a ligand or something, and reaching the T cells and generating in vivo in the patient the CAR T cells, and it would make, instead of $500,000, $20,000 or $50,000. So that's the trend, and here are RNA researcher with us here, and they will maybe know more, but that's the main things what is going on.
We thank you very much for your questions. I thank the panel for this wonderful discussion, and we would like to invite you all on the behalf of our hosts to join us and to continue the discussion downstairs at the reception. Thank you very much for joining us today.